There was a question on one of the pages that I follow, um, and it was about how to deal with hypervigilance. Now, I think I've said before that I see myself as a system, a singular person that does not experience her world in a very singular manner. Um, Within me, there are very divergent views and thoughts and feelings and emotions about the very same situation. So that's been something that I've spent years developing an awareness around. Not all aspects of myself have the same level of awareness, but there's been years of building this awareness. Having an awareness of my different aspects allows me to now be able to kind of open up communication. And we have not perfected that. Not all of us communicate well. Not all the parts of me communicate well. Some get along better than others, communicate quite well. But there's been this building of communication between parts. So a lot of my parts are shut off emotions. They hold the memory of something very painful, something that at the time that this painful thing happened was overwhelming to my system and that I could not handle. So that became something compartmentalized, something other, something outside of myself, um, and operates very much in a fragmented way within me. So this awareness of it kind of allows me to sit with it. Now, these parts tend to be quite emotional in nature. And not all of us, but most of the aspects within myself are quite emotional. The things that trigger these aspects to arise are largely emotional, relational in nature. So when someone says hypervigilance or anger or sadness, I imagine the part of me that holds most of that. Now, this isn't always a single part because all of my parts have their own emotions, feelings, thoughts about things. So there's not just one aspect of me that might have the potential to be angry or sad. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I've had to develop some communication between these parts and be able to sit with them. I think it's quite powerful to have learned to do this because sometimes I don't know my system well enough and I don't know what part I'm dealing with. All I know is that this part is upset, it's emotional. Not feeling safe is a huge thing within my system. We're not safe, we're not safe, we're not safe, we're not safe. So I have to be able to sit with that part. Now, these aspects, these if you're just dealing with emotions and maybe you're not fragmented to the extreme that I might be within, I still think that the principle can apply and be very useful. So in this case, somebody was asking about hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is there for a reason. It has kept us safe for a very, very long time. It is our friend. Hypervigilance loves us. It loves us so much. It wants to keep this hurtful thing that has happened from us in the past from happening again. It wants to keep us safe from an abuser. And sometimes, this could be someone who might be in a domestic violence situation, can develop hypervigilance. It's a PTSD response, right? So, whether that's PTSD or complex PTSD, it is a complex trauma response. So, that response is there for a very, very good reason. We were very intelligent for that to have been something that developed within our bodies to keep us safe. So we don't want to treat it as an enemy. It is quite our friend. Now, in its desire to protect us, it will try to protect us even when we might not be in a situation that is unsafe. It still thinks it needs to protect us. So in that moment, we can imagine hypervigilance as this other aspect of ourselves. It is something outside of ourselves. We can sit with that like we would if you saw somebody that was hurting and in pain, and you can empathize with what that must feel like, you're a lot more likely to sit with that person in that space, to be able to meet them in the space that they're in and allow it to be. We're going to sit with hypervigilance like it's our friend because it is. And it doesn't feel safe right now. But in this particular moment, we're safe. In this particular moment, everything is fine. And hypervigilance may not believe us. And that's okay because it has been unsafe for a very long time. We're just going to sit with her and keep her company. Not try to fix her, not try to solve the problem for her. We're just going to sit there and let her, our presence, let her know that she is safe, he is safe, they are safe. However you choose to envision hypervigilance. And this is the same thing with anger, sadness, fear, frustration, whatever emotions come up that overwhelm us to the point where they're affecting our daily functioning. And we want to be able to sit with those parts. And then if we sit long enough, sometimes those parts have something to tell us. They're there to, inform us of something. But they're our friend. These emotions and these aspects of ourselves, if you're on the dissociative spectrum, they love us. They're there for very good reason, even when it shows up in a way that may not be functional to the outside world, right? That other people see as a problem or disordered. Maybe it's giving us a result in our day to day living that we really don't like. We still want to be able to learn to sit with these parts and accept these parts and understand these parts because they're there for a very, very good reason. Now, at the time that they developed and came to be, it was very necessary, but we may not no longer be in that space of vulnerability. We may no longer be in a place that is not safe. So these parts don't know that though, and they're still operating as if we are. So we have to show them that we're in a different space and let them know that they've taken such good care of us and maybe there's another job they can do. But we no longer are in danger and we don't have to constantly scan and we have to do this again and again. And it won't, in some of these parts, they're aren't just going to go away. They're going to always be there ready to step in and do the job that they were created to do. But in this particular moment, we're ready to go to sleep, and hypervigilance is afraid to go to sleep. So we have to talk to hypervigilance and sit with hypervigilance and let hypervigilance know that we are safe. I think if you can state, now this is not possible if you cannot identify. This is harder. I won't say it's not possible. It's much more difficult if you can't identify or there's a lack of awareness. If you don't know why you can't sleep, then this is much harder to do. But if you have an awareness that hypervigilance is there and that's why you're not sleeping, now hypervigilance can take shape and form and we can communicate with that hypervigilance. We can recognize that it has very good reasons. We can thank it for the jobs that it's done, fear, whatever these things that come up for us. And again, if you're like me and you're a system and you have parts, these parts exist for a reason. They hold a lot of things for us. They hold a lot of our pain and our trauma and things that might overwhelm us if we had to look at them before we're ready. So they may not be able to share everything with us, but that doesn't mean that we can't have appreciation and love for the fact that they're there for a very good reason. And when they do things, even when those things don't make sense to us, when they seem like they're hurting us or sabotaging us or whatever term you like to look at, that they're really trying to love us, and they're trying to love us in the only way that they know how. And at one time it was very adaptive, very intelligent, and was quite necessary to keep us safe. Today that may show up and seem more maladaptive or not as helpful, and might cause us problems that we really wish we don't have. But that part doesn't know that. It's simply trying to do what it's been doing for a very, very long time to keep us safe. So beginning to communicate with ourselves, about ourselves, and to ourselves, whether you're a system, whether you're just having things like PTSD, or even complex PTSD, and you might not be actually a system, you can still do that work. Now, if you're dealing with psychology stuff, internal family systems kind of helps with the communication aspect. It's a little different for systems. It can be quite a bit different for systems, so I don't want to minimize that. I think that some of the work that they talk about in internal family systems might be helpful. I have not actually done that, so I don't know and can say that for certain. I know that anytime I'm looking for help on how to communicate or open up communication within my parts, that's what comes up a lot. I've seen some resources and stuff, but I haven't actually worked with a therapist, so I'm not going to speak heavily on that. I just know that when I come across information about it or people are talking about it, it seems to really resonate, and it's really helped me to accept parts of myself and to be and again to communicate differently. So, regardless of where you are, though the awareness is really, really, really powerful. It's not always comfortable. It won't even always feel safe. But awareness is still very, very, very powerful. So when we're aware of our emotional state, then we can kind of work with that. We can communicate with our mind, body, our system, and we can begin to work with things. So, awareness is a gift even when it does not feel like it. And remember, no matter what arises, it is our friend. It is not an enemy. It is there because it is trying to help us, it is trying to love us. And sometimes when we take the time to sit with it and hear, then it doesn't have to scream to get our attention. When we learn to get in touch with our bodies and we listen to our bodies and our bodies begin to tell us there's something off balance, something is wrong, and we can begin to correct that before it becomes a major problem, then opening that communication is quite powerful too. It means we can make healthier choices. We can find out things ahead of time. We can get ahead of the curve. We can, communication on whatever level with self is very, very powerful, but it takes awareness. You have to be aware of your body. You have to be aware you're holding tension to let go of tension. If you're not aware that you're tense, it doesn't matter that you're tense. That lack of awareness doesn't allow you to begin to let go either. So, becoming aware that we're tense, it really helps in the ability to begin to let go. If we learn what the difference is between being tense and being relaxed, we can begin to work with that. If you don't have an awareness, it's you can't change what you're not aware of. So I think just this person's question was so beautiful because it meant that there's awareness. There's an awareness of why there's an issue. Like what is this that's showing up that's interfering with sleep in this case? It's hypervigilance. We can name it, we can communicate with it, we can work with that awareness. Now if you're just saying I can't sleep at night, help me, I don't know what to do to sleep at night, and that gets to be a little harder because you don't really know what to work with. You know what I mean? But guided meditations are phenomenal. People have different things. Some people medication may be appropriate. That's something to discuss with your doctor. Some people use natural remedies. One of the things I really loved, an acupuncturist gave me, and I'm not a medical doctor. Um, so this is something that you have to get from a licensed acupuncturist. So you have to speak to them about whether it's appropriate. But it's called Insomnitol, Insomnitol, Insomnitol. They do sell it. Sometimes you can get it on Amazon. I would recommend not going through Amazon. I made that mistake, and those herbs are really, really outdated and they don't last long and they're not in good condition. I would go through a licensed acupuncture to get fresh herbs. Whatever they're selling on Amazon, I'm just going to tell you from personal experience, I would probably not use that. What I like about Insomnitol is it has a mix of different herbs that are really helpful for sleep. So valerian root, melatonin, pharma GABA, passion flower, all of these within in and of themselves is very, very helpful for sleep. But I like the combination of it because like if I take it doesn't just knock me out where I can't function. So if I take it and I realize I have something to get done, I can still get it done. But it does relax me. And when I wake up in the morning, there's no hangover feeling, there's no grogginess, there's no off feeling. The herbs are balanced in such a way as to negate any negative effects of it. It's not addictive. I usually buy a bottle. I never had to use the whole bottle, never. Like usually within a couple of weeks, my sleep cycle will regulate. I can stop taking the herbs, and my sleep cycle stays regulated until maybe like I might end up having another major trigger, um, depending on like it could be 6 months later, and then I might only have to take the herbs for a week. But it's not like, oh, I have to take these every night for the rest of my life to go to sleep. It actually helps seem to restore my circadian rhythm, and it actually, after a couple of weeks, my sleep cycle tends to regulate itself, and I'm able to sleep much better, unless, like I said, unless I have something major come up and I have a major trigger or something's activated, and it starts to I start to have more problems. um, Parts popping up are always going to be an issue when they get activated and triggered and stuff like that. So, but I did find, like I said, I like that it doesn't make me feel groggy and hungover, and I don't have trouble waking up. So I really like the blend of it, but it is something, like I said, you get it from a licensed acupuncturist. Um, Sometimes you can find one online that might just be willing to ship it to you because it really doesn't have any negative aspects or anything like that where you have to worry about that usually. But and let's see. And other people, like I said, they always have recommendations of what works for them. You have to find out for yourself. We're all very individual and unique. So you can try the things that people talk about, whether it's breath work or, like I said, depending on what is causing your issue and how much awareness around it that you have, has a lot to do with how you navigate that space. Um, early on in my journey, I had no idea about anything. I had, my self awareness was not there to that extent. And I needed medication. Now, the medication kind of quieted things, but um, it didn't stop like these major triggers, which were really the thing that were disturbing my life, right? It wasn't the little everyday stuff. It wasn't stopping the parts from popping out, although I didn't realize at the time that I was a system. It didn't stop these parts from being very, very loud, and all of that. It didn't stop the emotional triggers and the emotional parts being activated. It didn't stop any of that. But what it did happen was I became aware of that. I could listen to that and hear that in a way that I hadn't been, because I was just so out of whack. So if medication is something you need, it's something you need. And over time, though, I've found that I've been able to work with things um, using natural things and stuff, acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, but everybody's different, and you have to decide for yourself what works for you and do what's best for you to take care of you, um, because only you can decide that ultimately. You are the director of your life. You know yourself the best. Nobody knows you better than you. Don't let somebody tell you they know you better than you. They can give you ideas, they can tell you what works for them. If it doesn't work for them, you try it, might not work for you. You know what I'm saying? And that's fine. Just move on from that. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means that you're a different person, you're unique, and you have to find that journey for yourself. So these are just things that have worked for me, and things that I have to work on, and things I practice. And again, I haven't perfected any of this, so this is just me sharing my perspective on that particular part of my journey. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great weekend. It is Thursday, I believe. So the weekend's coming up. I hope you enjoy your weekend. I love you guys.